Let's throw our hands in the air as we soar through the sky. Kururun, Kururun, Kururun. Together we'll catch the sun with your hand in mine. Kururun, Kururun, Kururun. And if we work as a team, everything will be fine. Oh, whoa, it's Kira of the what now?
Let's henshin and rip off their heads. Hello, fellow prophets of the potosphere, and welcome to episode 34 of
Cure of the what now?
The only show where we, Kat and Joel, single-handedly predicted the might, the glory, the unshakable charisma of Buff Kururun. He is here!
You thought that you'd Tropica shine brighter than I did? Who decided that?
I am your host, Kat, and when I grow up, I want to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Awesome, because you saw it on TV that one time.
No, I would want to be a Spinosaurus. That's the coolest dinosaur.
Fair enough. I'm your co-host Joel, relative newbie to the series, and also when I grow up, I want to be a magician. Check me out, pull this rabbit out of my hat. Rabberin, is this a crossover episode?
Oh, I tried to pull a rabbit out of my hat, but instead I just got our dog.
Interesting. She does kind of hop sometimes, I guess, when she's running.
I like to imagine she saw the rabbit in there and she went in after it, and who knows where the rabbit went. Back to the space where stuff in magician hats hang out, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, we don't have any announcements this week, I don't believe.
I have an announcement. Next week's episode should be back to normal. I was gone for a week, so last week's episode released, I think, like a day or two late, and then this week's episode might not go up right away tomorrow. But next week, we will be back to our normal recording routine.
Yes, I'd love to release first thing on Tuesday while the episode's still fresh in everyone's mind, but I think Wednesday is okay. Once it gets to Thursday, that's when I'm like, all right, we need to change our life around to accommodate.
And when it gets to Friday, okay, scratch it. This episode and next week's episode are going up at the same time. They're going to be best friends.
Sure, absolutely.
Do you have a lead-in discussion for me this week?
I do, and it's one that we have to do now, because if we do it next week, it will be too late. With Halloween coming up, and there is usually a Halloween-themed episode for PreCure, what costumes do you think would suit the different girls?
I think Minori will dress up as an old-fashioned sheet ghost and still terrify Manatsu every time Manatsu looks at her. And I think throughout the episode, she will hide behind things just to frighten Manatsu.
Wouldn't it be funny if it's kind of obvious where she's hiding a little bit like Chopper from One Piece, and everyone but Manatsu always sees her, but Manatsu is always surprised?
Yes. That would be hilarious. I also think Laura is going to dress up as a queen of some kind.
Oh, sure.
But it'll really just be her in a crown. And she'll be like, you have to carry me, I'm the queen tonight. And they'll be like, you make us carry you everywhere anyway.
To quote a really funny post on Tumblr, fetch me a palanquin?
It was you made that post.
No, you made the post, but I was the one in the video.
That's true.
Anyways, okay, so what do you think Songo's gonna go dressed as?
I still am really on board with the idea of werewolf Songo.
Okay, and then that leaves Manatsu and Asuka.
Hold on, really quick. What do I think Songo is actually going to go dressed as? I think she's going to go dressed as, like, Hello Kitty.
Okay, yeah, I like it. A little toned-down version of a werewolf.
Yeah. Manatsu goes as a whale shark because she forgot to make a costume, realized Halloween was the most important thing happening right now, and got the old whale shark mascot costume out of the aquarium closet.
Oh, all right. And then Asuka?
Asuka goes as herself, but in her tennis uniform, and she says she's going as a tennis player, and everyone's like, you're just you.
Excellent.
Where's your racket, Asuka? It's over there. It's being used to, like, hold a door open.
Where's your racket? Don't you touch it! Don't you sabotage my attempt! I'm gonna be champion!
I'm gonna be queen of the tennis players now.
Absolutely. Here's a fun prediction. I doubt they would do this, but wouldn't it be funny? Shiratori and Asuka dress up in the same outfit.
That would
and
be
they show up
funny.
at the costume party and they're just like, eh?
What if Manatsu dresses up as Laura? and then spends the whole episode pretending to act like her.
What if they all show up dressed as Laura?
That's ideal, actually. Now, are you going to give your guesses, or were you just letting me guess?
I was letting you go through all of your guesses, but you've exhausted all the characters.
Well,
right?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, and now I can participate.
Sure, participate.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're making a face. Okay, quick
I don't understand.
Hold on. Quick peek behind the curtain here, folks. We have a Discord, which you are all welcome to participate in. Sometimes we have people post spoilers in the Discord by mistake. And so, a while ago, someone shared a post from Twitter that included the girls in Halloween costumes, and we didn't know if they were officially from the episode or not. I didn't look at the post and have already forgotten even like the barest glimpse of the bottom of it I saw scrolling through, but I know Joel saw it, and so I wasn't sure if he was going to want to comment on it or if his speculation had been ruined by that.
So peek behind the curtain. I'm not great at acting, but I was just going to give guesses that were not what I saw and pretend that those were my guesses. And then next week be like, oh no, I was wrong. From what I remember, I also have forgotten a lot of the individual ones, but there was one that made me kind of be like, I don't understand why they would pick that, but maybe it'll make sense in the episode, or maybe we'll get a new dimension to the character that we wouldn't have suspected, right?
I have a question for you really quick.
You sure?
If you were going to dress up as a Yarane Da for Halloween, would you be a specific Yarane Da that we've seen in the show, or would you just put, like, the giant eyes over your own face and then, like, the little motivation power heart somewhere on your body?
Well, okay, I don't think I would... Well, okay, so realistically, I would probably do the laziest thing. I don't typically dress up for Halloween, and I've wanted to cosplay for years, but I just never get around to it. So, realistically, I would probably do as little as possible. If I were to dress up, I would probably try to pick a creative Yarane Da, make my own, but I would try to have it be more of a costume than just that. But it would include the eyes and the little heart, that kind of thing. How about you?
I think I would dress up as the Laura Yarane Da.
The Laura Yarane Da.
So she had the eyes and then the X for her mouth.
Oh, in the episode where they did the body switch. Okay,
yeah.
I was thinking of like the quote-unquote canon episodes. I'm like, they never made... That would... Okay, anyways.
So it'd basically be a Laura cosplay, but with a Yarane Da face.
Okay. Now, back to the
girls.
The original discussion question. What would they dress up as? So I could see Manatsu just being like a thing she made up, but I'm imagining lots of bright colors, potentially like rainbows, and maybe like some kind of a little bit like island goddess type of look, right? Something that Tropica shines, like the embodiment of Tropica shining. I assume that Minori would dress up as either a famous fictional character or a famous author, so maybe something a la William Shakespeare, or perhaps Sherlock Holmes would make sense.
What about Minori dressed up as... I had one, and it's gone now?
The L block from Tetris, maybe?
It wasn't that. We'll go with that, because now I feel bad. You keep doing your guesses.
Okay. I had a couple of guesses in the back of my mind that I wanted to. Asuka would be a black belt, or perhaps a video game fighting character. Although, as we've discussed before, she's into cute things, so it would be more likely she would dress up as a cute thing.
I just remembered what I was going to say for Minori. Pirate. To go with her love of mermaid fiction.
That would be great. Songo could dress up as a fairy tale character, so she could either be the fairy godmother with like the wings and a little wand and a hat, or maybe she could go as Little Red Riding Hood.
I was gonna say, I don't know what it is about Songo that gives off wolf association vibes, but like werewolf Songo works, but also Red Riding Hood Songo with like a little wolf sitting on her shoulder works, you know?
And then what if Laura dresses up as Kururun?
Laura and Kururun dress up as each other.
Also, other great ideas that they would never do, but would be kind of funny. Imagine Manatsu dressing up as that famous banana outfit.
Which of the girls is most likely to dress in that, like, really dumb inflatable T-Rex costume that's been super popular the last couple of years?
I'd say Manatsu, but it would be funniest to see Laura trying to act all prim and Ojo-sama in it.
I love it.
But yeah, I think that's just about it. Let's see how our predictions stack up. And if we're pleasantly surprised, we're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are cosplaying as any of the Tropical Rouge girls for Halloween, shoot us a tweet. I would love to see your costumes. We are too lazy to cosplay, so I admire the dedication of anybody who's not.
Excellent.
Joel, do you have a sweet, sweet, succinct summary to hit me with?
I do. So they are doing a what do you want to be in the future episode. You have most of the characters know what they want to be when they grow up, except for Manatsu. She wants to focus on what's most important right now. She asks her parents. We get a few kind of amusing stories about their childhoods. And eventually Manatsu decides what she's going to be when she grows up, but won't tell the other girls. They have to go to this expo type thing where they're playing different videos of people and they'll have to see for themselves. And it is eventually revealed that she will do whatever is most important to adult Manatsu at that time. And meanwhile, Elda is kind of facing the same idea of growing up, but she again is resisting, as we've seen before. She runs away from the mansion, and she misses everyone, and at the end of the episode, she's able to go back and join them. But the main conflict is her and Cure Summer engaging in an Ace Attorney style objection! Growing up is great!
Now, Joel, I have one more thing to add to your succinct summary, which was, as always, wonderful. There was one hand gesture that the characters seem to do a lot of.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Can you describe it verbally for our listeners?
It's too bad that this is an audio medium, because I would love to just randomly just start doing this throughout the episode and for people to be able to see that I'm just animating. Think of it as you have shake weights in both hands. That's basically what it is. It's like a double fist pump, and it's meant to show excitement. But they've made the expression before in other episodes, but this episode they just went overboard with it.
So last week we had the clip show, right?
That's right.
And then this week we had this animation thing. And so I saw somebody talking about how the clip show was really like we ran out of budget for animation this week, so we're just going to do something low key. And so I wonder if this was they're reusing frames that were already drawn because it's easier than animating the characters doing something else.
Yeah, maybe. I'd be interested to know. There's a lot that goes into the production of an anime, right? As a casual viewer of anime, or even as a hardcore viewer of anime, I couldn't possibly pretend to understand the industry. But I'm curious if they did run out of money, if it's because they focus it more on other episodes, or if the show is receiving less funding than before, because the second one doesn't make sense to me. I would think that the season seems to be pretty popular. So, yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. So, that aside, what was your favorite scene or quote from this episode?
As someone who enjoys the strong friendships that could be viewed under different contextual lenses, I really liked Manatsu and Laura kind of having a sleepover, although they live in the same house anyways at the moment. But they're talking about, what kind of queen do you want to be, Laura? And she goes, I want to be a legendary queen. What about you, Manatsu? And they're taking selfies of each other. That was cute.
It was very cute. My favorite moment actually was another cute moment, but it was Numeri being a mom to Elda.
Yes.
And coming out and being like, are you tired of running away yet? Are you ready to come home?
How was running away? And Elda is very like, I didn't really like it. And she's like, well, then come home.
That very much seemed like something a parent might say to a child who is like, I'm running away. I read a picture book when I was very little about a kid who decided to run away from home. And her
Called
dad...
Where the Wildlings Are?
No, not that one. Her dad comes in and is like, oh, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm packing to run away from home. And he's like, oh, we better get you all the stuff that you need. And she like makes a list. And of course it's stupid stuff like cookies and my favorite pink t-shirt. And then she goes outside and it's freezing and she's hungry for actual food. And she comes home and it's very wholesome. But that's what this scene with Elda and Numeri reminded me of.
Absolutely.
Did you like the reveal of what Manatsu's dream was?
Yes and no. It fits her character perfectly, and so I think that was very nice. And I think there are people who don't necessarily know what they want to be when they grow up. There are grown-ups who don't know what they want to be today or tomorrow and that sort of thing. On the other hand, I feel like what do you want to be when you grow up when you're in a specific age range? And they're a little young for it, right? Because they have high school still. But I think that it is important to consider, like, should I go to college? Do I need to have good grades? Or can I go to a vocational school or that sort of thing? And so in that sense, I kind of wish that she had come up with some kind of a plan.
Well, and like in Japanese society, the high school you go to determines the course of your life. Like as much weight is put on it as choosing a college is here.
Sure.
So, Manatsu, you don't have a lot of time. You're making me anxious. What's your retirement plan?
Oh my gosh. She does still have 2 years, I think, because I believe she's in 7th grade, Minori is 8th, and Asuka is 9th. So we know that Asuka is still going to the same school. But yeah, it's interesting. I suspect that they're setting up so that in the final episode, we will get a brief flash of, if not explicitly what she wants to be, some kind of like, oh, I'm going to go to the city and check it out and get a feel for it or something like that.
Could be, absolutely. I could see her being like a travel around the world and take photos kind of person. At the same time, so PreCure has had a few seasons now where dreams have been very important, and what kind of person do you want to be and who do you want to be? So to have a character look at the screen and be like, it doesn't really matter to dream about the future. You should just focus on now. Like, that makes me feel kind of weird.
I think that there's kind of 2 schools of thought, and I think they use Elda and Manatsu as brilliant vessels for them. So there's the people who are terrified of growing up, and that's what Elda is supposed to represent. And then there's Manatsu, who isn't resistant to the idea, but wants to enjoy the here and now. And I think you need a little bit of enjoying the here and now, and also the ability to plan for the future. I think that's one of the things that makes humans incredible and human.
Absolutely. I'm hoping Manatsu marries someone who plans.
Oh, okay.
And then she can be the fun, spontaneous one who plans, day-long hikes with the dog. And her partner can be the serious one who's like, we need to sit down and record, or we're not going to.
Maybe that's a pretty good idea. What if Manatsu meets someone who is just as energetic and spontaneous as she is, and they basically become the couple from that one comedy we watched on Hulu, John Cena and his wife.
That does sound like an ideal future for Manatsu, actually.
Please help me. What was the actual name of that movie? Do you remember? Oh, gosh. It'll be a link in the description. It is a R-rated comedy type movie, but there's basically a couple that are just a whirlwind of energy.
It's weird because it's been so long that I've actually sat down and watched a movie that anytime I see a movie coming out, I'm typically like, I could take it or leave it. But then I watch movies and I go, oh, I like these actually. And that's for all movies. Like at one point it was just Marvel movies. Like I forgot how much I enjoyed going to see them. But no, it's all movies.
Yeah, fair enough.
The other favorite scene I had, it wasn't really anything about the scene itself. It's the association it gave me. But we had this big screen of people saying what their dreams were, and all these little kids were watching. And then Elda shows up, and with the help of Changi-Rei, she Yarine Daws the screen. Not the screen itself, but like a toy robot, because someone wanted to be a robot when they grew up. And I yelled, she said, shut your dream! And that cracked me up. That's a Go Princess reference for you. I also liked Manatsu's father.
Yes! So they captured the fact in this episode, I think. I think we can come up with a scientific theory that the pink cure gene is in fact inherited. Ichika's mom wanted to be a ballet dancer, but she was too clumsy, and it just shows her falling over and just like shrugging at the camera like, yeah.
You said Ichika, you meant Manatsu.
The pink one in this season. Yeah. But the dad is also incredibly goofy. He wanted to grow up and be a fire engine. Not a firefighter. He wanted to be the actual fire truck. And then after that, he wanted to be a patrol car so he could drive around, policemen around. And then he finally realized that maybe he should be a person, and he decided on pirate, which is an excellent career goal in the 21st century. Pirates do exist, but it's not quite the same as
it's not romantic version. With a capital R. I love him.
Yeah?
If I could marry a fictional PreCure dad, it would probably be him. Ichika has a pretty good dad, too. He's very devoted to his daughter, but I love the energy that Manatsu's dad brings to the world.
Yeah, he's slightly more I own my own goofiness, whereas Ichika's dad is a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit like, oh, I wish that my daughter was as close to me as she was when she was a little girl or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's excellent. I love the so-called, and again, thank you, James, from the Discord, that welder guy on Twitter, for, would you like an egg in these trying times scene between Kururun and Elda. That was so good.
That was really cute, and I thought something would come of it by the end of the episode, but nothing did, and I'm really curious if something will come of it sometime between now and when the series ends.
This is the second time that I can think of, maybe more, where Elda is kind of like, sort of made friends with the PreCure people. Numeri has never really shown up and been forced to, like, socialize with them or anything like that. Maybe on the train with Asuka, but even then she was up to no good. Changi-Rei helped out at the festival, cooking or whatever. But Elda had the ghost episode where she was stranded, and now this episode where, to set up the scene, in case you haven't seen it, Elda goes to the beach at night and is basically... She's saying that she misses Changi-Rei and Numeri, but they don't actually explicitly say it. I love the fact that they left it as subtext. But then the camera zooms out and Kururun is there for some reason. Kururun is like, Kururun? And tries to give her a cookie. Yeah, the thing that Kururun likes the most in the world. And Ella's like, I could capture you again. Kururun's like, Kururun? And then she flies away like, I don't need any of your pity.
That's perfect. Kururun's up to something. I'm really excited to see that payoff, and I hope that it does. Like, I hope we get an actual payoff for that. We do have to quickly shout out Buff Kururun, not only for the fact that we saw a Buff Kururun, but also because I loved that they asked, Kururun, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they all imagined Kururun as buff, and Laura was like, no, Kururun's not going to be buff. And then they were like, it can if it wants, and Kururun was like, Kururun, and Laura went, no.
To be fair, it was Asuka who inceptionized the idea in everyone's head, but yeah, she's like, are you going to become, buff? So now that we've gotten Buff Kururun, which you and I have been hypothesizing about, I now have to up the ante. I have to say, a future episode, possibly the last episode, maybe like right before, like, because PreCure usually wraps up the finale on, like, say the 48th episode, and then 49 is like a flash forward and like a wind down episode. The difference between the climax and the resolution, I think. So Kururun will say something other than Kururun. He'll develop some means of communication where he'll be like, yes, my children, you have done well to defend the Grand Ocean today. And they're like, Kururun, you can talk?
Kururun is almost certainly the queen, right? Like in disguise. And that's why they've just used Kururun this whole time and never any pronouns or anything.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm almost positive now. Yeah, I like that. My other theory is that Kururun will become an alicorn. Gonna get the horn and the wings.
Sure.
We'll show it to that one friend's kids, and they'll be like, oh, Kururun's a princess? Play the episode again! And we'll play the episode again, and it'll get to the part where Kururun transforms, and they'll all go, oh, Kururun's a princess?
I think Kururun could just be Kururun. There's a line in here that, like, Kururun will always be Kururun, which just proves that Kururun is an immovable object. It is a fact that cannot be changed or altered. But it could just be a super cute animal who only says its name like a Pokemon. But it would also be interesting if it has some hidden meaning, if it's somehow related to their final transformation, or it has secret wisdom or something of that sort.
Related to Densetsu no PreCure?
Absolutely. I predict Kururun will transform, and I think the Kururun won't be muscular is kind of like very subtle foreshadowing that Kururun will be magical or will be sparkly, something like that, right? Something that's different than muscular, but Kururun will change.
Okay, I like it.
Do you want to talk about the fun game that we came up with Futari Wa, or do you have any more to say about Trump?
No, I am ready for this fun game.
All right, so Kat was out of town for a little bit, and it threw off our watch together schedule a little bit. So what we decided was that because she had less internet access than she would normally have if she were home, and because Futari Wa has gotten a little boring for us, one of us, myself, would watch the episode, give different possibilities of what the episode was about, and then Catherine will have to guess which one is the actual episode. I've come up with 3. One of them is the real one. The other 2 are obviously fake. And I randomly shuffled them because I think it would be too obvious that, oh, the answer is B if he randomized them himself. No, a computer was involved in this. It could be any one of the 3. Need to make that clear.
Okay.
So, here are your 3 plots. Plot A. Nagisa's relay team is missing one of its members due to sickness, and Nagisa has to run double shifts. She has to run the first and the third leg of the relay race. She's worried she won't be able to keep up because she has to run twice as much, but is encouraged by her friends, which includes Meppel, Mipple, and Poland, but also Honoka. Plot B. Nagisa is almost unable to compete in a relay race, but shows up at the last minute, but she was also hungry, which affected her performance.
Oh.
Option C, Regine enters the relay race in disguise and attempts to sabotage Nagisa's team, but Honoka is able to deduce the truth and reveal the trickery last minute.
Okay, so only one of these scenarios has a villain in it.
Okay.
But I have to ask, how do the villains play into the other 2, one is potentially the truth scenarios?
How do you mean?
I mean, so for the first one and the second one, when did the PreCure transform and fight the bad guy?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't think of that because this answer could give you insights. You're trying to trick me. You're trying to play 4D chess.
Here's the thing.
In scenario A and scenario B, the fight had literally nothing to do with the relay race. So the episode was about the relay race, but, the bad guys showed up, or bad guys show up, and they're like, oh, we're going to do some bad things, and then they get defeated, and the episode immediately goes back to the main plot of the episode.
Okay. I'm between A and C. I think A is most likely as a plot of this show, like an episode of this show.
That's the one where Nagisa has to run 2 legs of the race.
Right, but C is the only one who has a villain in it. But I'm going to go with A. I think A was the actual plot of the episode.
The answer is Nagisa was hungry.
Really?
That was what the episode was about.
Actual episode?
So
That's so dumb.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's a lot of drama. I guess members of the lacrosse team were split into 2 members of the relay race. Do you remember the princess that we met earlier in the season? She's like the star of the... So she's in the relay race and she doesn't want to lose to Nagisa. And then it looks like Nagisa isn't going to make it to the race because she's fighting Regine. But then she manages to make it to the race and she runs and she wins anyways. And then the girl's like, how could you have beaten me? And then Nagisa was like, also, I'm hungry. And she's like, you beat me even though on an empty stomach? And that's been your Futari Wa episode.
I liked this game. We should do it again next week, but I'll watch the episode.
Sure. Oh, really quick. Just pick a random object that was found somewhere in the school that Regine, she was indeed the villain for this episode, that Regine turned into the Zakena that they had to fight.
Key.
It was a piano. Right before the relay race, Poland goes missing, because of course he does, and they're looking for him, and they hear piano music playing, and they're like, what's that? And they go in, and it's Regine in human form playing on the piano, and she goes, where's the Dokutsu stones, or whatever she's after? And they're like, why would we tell you? And then she turns the piano into this, 4-legged wheeled monster, and then they defeat it, and that's it.
Wait, what did Poland going missing have to do with anything? They were in the school because Poland was
everyone
missing.
else was outside at the relay race and the school festival, but the 2 girls were still inside the school looking for Poland.
Okay.
And Poland disappearing had nothing to do with anything. There was no reason that Poland left. He wanted to, say hi to them while they ran, and then got distracted in a basket full of plushies, beanbags and stuff.
Okay, well, the good news is we have something more interesting to discuss. Some of my favorite episodes of Kira Kira PreCure a la mode. Not sure there is a longer title of anything.
No, I think that's the longest series title that I have ever heard. It's like if they took that scene from last week's Tropical Rouge about the attack name that was too long, and they just translated it into a series title, you know? So this week, we watched episodes 44 through 46, and as I predicted last week, these 3 episodes are focusing on Akira, on Yukari, and on Ichika facing Elysio. As a quick Side note, Elysio is getting more and more desperate that he's unable to defeat these girls, and that comes to a head in the Ichika episode. But let me go a little bit further into detail on each of these. Akira's sister is obviously going to be about her younger sister Miku, who is in the hospital and sick. Akira's like, I want to be a doctor when I grow up, and Miku's like, you can't do something on my behalf. That would be selfless, and you want to be selfish or something. I don't know. And then she gets taken to the darkness zone by answering a telephone from Elysio, and Elysio goes, you freaking noob, you're weighing your sister down.
Having cancer is ruining your sister's life.
Absolutely. He basically shows how toxic he is as an online player. And he kidnaps Miku, literally kidnaps the child, and then they have to fight, and they are able to defeat him. The bad guy is a giant evil snowman.
That Miku is trapped inside.
That's true.
Because it represents the coldness she feels between herself and her sister.
Yes, and also that time that Akira wanted to make a snowman with her, but she doesn't want to make a snowman anymore, which never went anywhere. But anyways,
No, it did. They made candy snowmen at the end of the episode. They made little snow dogs.
So at the beginning of the episode, Akira has a flashback of wanting to make a snowman with Miku, but Miku is sick in the hospital. And then in present day, she goes, do you want to make a snowman? And Miku says no, which I thought meant that they were drifting apart. And then at the end of the episode, Akira makes the snowman ice cream cones or whatever, and Miku is like, oh, wow, thanks. But like, I don't feel as though she changed her mind and came closer to Akira. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, yeah. I think it was more of a Akira wanted to do this thing with Miku, and Miku is too sick to be able to do it, but at the end they found something they could do together.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The next episode is... Elysio actually doesn't muck with things in this episode, like in any way. He just sort of shows up at the end and goes, hey, by the way, I'm a bad guy, and they fight. But Yukari announces to everyone that she is going to leave, and she's going to go to, what is the Confetti Principality or something like that?
Yeah, the Confetto Kingdom of
Confetto,
Sweets.
thank you, that's it. But basically, she's going to leave Ichigozaka, and everyone's pretty sad. There's a moment where she tells Pecorin that she'll be with Pecorin forever, and Pecorin gets really upset because you lied to me. You lied to Pecorin. And it turns out that Yukari has realized that you can be connected to people over distances through your feelings. I still feel as though she lied to Pecorin, though. Like, honestly, she said, I will be with you forever, not we will be friends forever. There's a distinction, Yukari.
To be fair, Yukari strikes me as the type who might be a compulsive liar. Like, she just says things that are amusing in the moment.
Oh, okay. Sure. Also, this is a Christmas episode. I need to point that out. It's not really that important to the plot, but I have a note here I want to address in a second. And then episode 46. Ichika is having her birthday. She doesn't really know what she wants to do with her future quite yet. Her mom and her dad are there for her birthday, and she invites some kids to partake in her cake because she enjoys sharing sweets with everyone. Elysio shows up and he says, hey, would be a shame if something happened to your party. And no, not Elysio. Noir shows up.
The boy! The man himself!
Yes. So it turns out that Elysio is the body that Noir used to inhabit. And they did a little splitsies sort of thing, which is very interesting. And now Noir, the spirit, is back inside Elysio's body, and they're stronger. So they're now fighting the big bad, who is saying things like, love is a fiction, he's destroying their Kira, he has enough evil in his heart that he, drowns the world in darkness. It gets so bad that the ghost of Lumiere has to show up and explain her backstory just so they might be able to find a critical detail that will allow them to defeat the bad guy.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
About Noir, I can fix him. I really think all he needs is someone to listen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you remember when Elysio said, I am but an empty shell of a clown, when they asked him who he was.
Absolutely.
That was foreshadowing. He meant that literally, and I'm only just catching on this rewatch. That means he thinks Noir is a clown.
I wonder if that's related to how this episode ends.
Keep going.
Yeah, so we also get the backstory of how Noir was created as a villain. He was a dude. He was from, like, the battlefield, so he, like, was basically half feral, but Lumiere finds him. Weird that Lumiere is Cure Lumiere. Like, we don't get, like, Ichika and Cure Ichika. Like, only Lumiere got the same name back in the past.
Maybe it's been so long that her ghost has forgotten her human name.
Oh, maybe.
And she's inhabited this identity. The
Capital I.
shard of Cure Lumiere.
But anyways, so Lumiere saves him by feeding him sweets. Probably not something you should give a starving man. Give him some, like, meat and some protein or something, right? But he basically is like, make sweets only for me. And she wants to share Akira Cure-All with everyone. She's like, I'm sorry. No. And then I don't know. Like, because, like, listen, they don't actually show the moment that he becomes, like, this evil bad guy that, like, creates Diable and stuff. So I'm imagining he has, like, an evil whisk that he plunges into his heart, Romeo and Juliet style, and then all of the world's darkness comes out of it.
Have you ever been so angry that you shat your spirit out of your body? That's what happened to Noir.
So, that's the backstory, and at the end of this episode, Noir and Lumiere are facing off against each other, and then, as they're doing a beam struggle, and the conflict is finally going to come to a resolution, Elysio disentangles from Noir again, and he goes, you know what? Lumiere believes in goodness, and Noir believes in darkness, but they can't defeat each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase both of them. I'm taking door number 3. I'm going to go neutral. No light, no dark. Puts them inside of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, because their life points are at 0 at this point, and then erases the world, kind of. Ichika wakes up. She's in, like, a gray dystopian future sci-fi jumpsuit looking thing. She doesn't remember where she is, or she doesn't seem to, and her transformation PreCure items have been turned to, like, gray or stone. And that's where the episode ends.
So good. So good. I got chills just thinking about that episode. How did you feel watching it?
I gotta say, I remembered you explaining that Noir was the twist villain, so it's watching something that has a twist villain and not knowing is different than watching and knowing. I liked it. This was an intense episode. The music was awesome. The backstory was great. Everything was amazing. But I wish that I had been fully surprised. But it does make sense, because if you think about what Elysio has been talking about the last couple of times that he's fought, he's been trying to be like, can light defeat darkness? No. And so he realized that he's going to have to do something more extreme. And isn't it just like Noir, who is all up in his feelings, to not realize that maybe someone might be taking advantage of those feelings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. He's so obsessed with his own hatred that it's the only thing he can see. And we've talked before about how one of the reasons I think this is, like, one of the best seasons of PreCure is that there is substance to the villains, right? But even Noir, that's actually a really relatable motivation. Like,
Sure.
It might seem a little dramatic, you know, you turned completely evil and tried to corrupt the world with hatred because a woman didn't love you, but no joke, I know men like that.
Yeah, just go to I don't know what specific subreddit I should call out, but there are some that are like that.
It's probably best that we don't call them out by name because we don't want to send more people there, but absolutely, there are. And so, not only is there that piece of it, but then you have Elysio, who is this person who is essentially born of the conflict between love and hatred, and he's, like, caught in the middle, like the child of divorced parents. And the conclusion he ultimately comes to is, you're both stupid, I'm going no contact and living my own life.
Well, and also, many teenagers, I certainly was one of them, and I know there are other people who think this way, but many people who have extreme emotions, and teenagers typically have that a little bit more than adults typically, But they will say, well, I want to live in a world without emotion. But the problem with that is that emotion is part of what it means to be human. And so, of course, Elysio is like this calculating creature that doesn't understand feelings and would immediately discard Noir's motivation. Also, I can't remember if I made the joke about Elysio being Noir's nobody, but I mean, that's exactly what he is. Noir, the spirit, is the heartless, and Elysio is the nobody, and the Noir before all this happened was the somebody.
What I'm hearing is that Elysio's name should actually be Roxanne.
No, it should...
Nirox?
No, Rixon, maybe. Rixon.
Okay, I like that. Does the X always have to go in the middle?
No, it can go anywhere in the name.
Okay, it just sounds better.
And it's not an X, it's the recusant's sigil, and that's how the bad guys can track their BFFs. That's how they're able to find Sora through Birth by Sleep, because they put an X on his shirt. Shout out to Barry Kramer's A Good Enough Kingdom Hearts summary.
Listeners, I have heard Barry Kramer's A Good Enough Kingdom Hearts summary echoing through this house so many times that I can recite it from memory just by being next to it. Imagine what it must have done to Joel, who was actively listening that many times.
I have taken the Keyblade and opened the doorway to the realm of knowledge. Okay, the other thing that is brilliant about this is that many times... And I can't think of every single villain we've seen so far, but I feel like all of the major antagonists that I've seen in the different PreCure seasons, they're just sort of like forces of evil who sort of show up and they're like, hey, we're going to use our evil to destroy your town. And then the Cures defeat them eventually. But in Noir's case, he was just a dude, and he met the girl who either was or would become, I guess she was already Akira at that point because she had the patissier and stuff, but meets this Cure girl, and the Cure actually created her own villain that outlasted her own mortal body, and now the current PreCure have to deal with it. So it's an actual personal connection to the bad guy that doesn't exist for Star Twinkle, doesn't exist for Healin' Good, doesn't exist for, as far as we know, Tropical Rouge, but probably a little bit Tropical Rouge.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
No, I do as well. This season may not have perfect character writing for the main Cures, but it got its villains exactly where I want them. Heartcatch came close. Heartcatch had the Desert King who killed his father and made a deal with the devil.
But that's not canon to
but it's not in the show,
exactly.
Is what I was going to say. If it had been in the show, it would be like same tier as Kira.
Absolutely. So I wrote a couple of notes for each of these episodes, and they're going to be very brief, but two of these episodes were great with like small little red check marks if I were the teacher grading them. So when it appeared that Miku was frustrated that Akira wanted to become a doctor, it seemed like Miku got like grade A depression, like, oh my god, I'm a worthless person who's dragging everyone down. But it was seriously just like one sentence from Akira, like, oh, I want to be a doctor and help people. And like, I didn't understand that. So I wish that they could have strengthened it. Maybe if Miku had a memory of Akira being like, when I grow up, I want to be X, I want to be a model, or pick any profession. And then nowadays, Akira saying, oh, I'm going to be a doctor, Miku could say, oh, she changed her dreams, I'm holding her back.
Yeah, I was going to defend it, but I really think, like, the more I consider it, I think I'm filling in the blanks kind of fan fiction style rather than the actual text of the show. And the actual text that we have to go on isn't much.
Sure.
Because Miku has never seemed sad interacting with Akira before. She's never been like, I feel bad that you have to spend so much time here, or I'm affecting your life. And if there had been any of that leading up to this moment, even like a throwaway line in one of their interactions, then this would have been more powerful.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that I didn't quite... The emotional meat from this episode came from Miku being abducted rather than Miku's feelings.
I was about to say, it's really more about Akira than Miku.
Yeah.
So, who cares?
Fair enough. She is still, I think, the cutest younger sibling I've seen in any of these shows.
Is what Elysio did here to her more evil than what he did to Aoi in Aoi's episode?
I'm going to say It depends on whether or not Elysio was going to erase those people from history forever, or if it was just like a momentary, like, I'm going to put them in a box for an hour, try having music now, you sad little punk. Because if it was that, then obviously abducting a child is worse. And I still think even if he were saying, I'm going to banish these people or take away your voice, I still think that taking a child is pretty evil.
Even if he hadn't kidnapped her, like emotionally abusing a child with cancer the way he did on the phone, like that's toxic, buddy. It's toxic. Also, we have gone this whole episode so far without saying the word simp or incel, so I have to get them out now. Noir was a simp. Noir was an incel. And now he's punished for it.
Yeah, I don't want to get into political discourse, but thank goodness that not all people deal with breakups the way that Noir did. It's also kind of interesting because when you were telling me about these episodes, I picked up on the very clear distinction that, like, they kind of had like a thing or they were madly in love or whatever, but it was literally like the chick he met 5 minutes ago. Like I think it would have been a really interesting story if we had somehow gotten flashes of their relationship developing, and then tragedy, but at the same time it works as a reveal.
This might be me fanficking again, but I think that what it was she was the first person in his life that he had ever experienced any sort of kindness from.
Yeah.
And Lumiere puts all her love, all her kirikiriru into her sweets, and so he ate it, and that was the first time he experienced love. And so his response to love wasn't, wow, this is amazing, we should share this with as many people as possible. It was, wow, this is amazing, I need it all to be mine, because I've never had any before and I want it.
Yeah. Or, what if... Because I'm kind of a piece of dirt kind of human. What if she finds someone else and gives all of her love to them? I have to make sure that I get it because, I get it. I think that if they wanted to do a tragic story, there are better ways to do, like, you could have had them actually falling in love and then he gets, like, slowly more possessive. Whereas this works for a single episode kind of a backstory, and it's not really about Lumiere, but I'd read a fanfic that was more fleshed out.
Did you get the impression that Lumiere was in love with him in return, or
No.
did you think it was one-sided?
He was just a dude, and she, like, wanted to help him, but it wasn't love.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt as well. Although I like the enemies to lovers thing, so I like to imagine that the years of fighting afterward kind of like bonded them in a special way.
Well, and I really like the idea of Lumiere kind of holding back when she fights Noir because she wants to save him rather than destroy him with sparkly rainbows or whatever.
That explains why he's still around now to mess with the modern PreCure.
Also, Noir in his shadowy form, which by the way looks like Hollow and his world looks like Weko Mundo.
Is this Bleach or is it Kingdom fucking Hearts?
Whoa, dude, you can't.
Pick one.
If you think about it, both of them have the inner world type of thing, so I'm just going to think that Bleach is Kingdom Hearts if they didn't get the rights to Final Fantasy or Disney characters.
Oh, that's a really good point, actually. Bleach is Kingdom Hearts, but edgier and interesting.
What is the Gay Blade TM, if not the Bonkai, the combined Bonkai of Riku and...
Did you say the Gay Blade?
I did.
What is that?
At the end of one of the games, Sora and Riku combine their two Keyblades into a giant F-off laser blade that they use to cut the bad guy in half.
That's sick.
It's formed from their feelings for each other. There is no subtext to that.
I've known writers who use subtexts, and they're all cowards. This is not a Kingdom Hearts episode.
It is not. Okay, so Noir in his spirit form, kind of menacing. I like him. He's got the mask, whatever. Elysio in his humanish form and his gray or silver hair and his cards, very suave. I like him a lot. When they combine and they become Noir again, I like the hair being purple as opposed to the kind of gray or silver. I do not like Noir's I'm a squeaky boy. It doesn't really fit. There's this dude who's like, I will plunge the world in darkness. It's just like, no, please, no.
See, I was about to say, I didn't actually get a chance to watch this episode, even though I wanted to, so I can't remember his voice, but I was imagining it from the way you described it as, oh, Sora, we have to go through the door to darkness. Oh. But no, from you actually saying it now, So it did sound like that. He sounded like Mickey Mouse.
He didn't sound quite like Mickey Mouse. I'm exaggerating, but he did. It was. If they could have kept Elysio's voice but done the aesthetics of Noir, I think that would have worked better for me. But this isn't a show for my demographic. Christmas episode. 2 really quick notes. 1. So Biberi mentions that she doesn't care much for Christmas, but she likes the sweets, and she and Aoi kind of have like a moment. And that was kind of cute. But since it is a Christmas episode, it would be interesting and really sweet if at the end of the episode, CL and maybe even Rio, to show that Rio and Biberi are becoming friends, if they gave her a gift to kind of show her the meaning of Christmas.
That would have been cute.
Would have been a great shipping moment.
Sounds like a fanfic somebody could write.
So that's just a quick note. Second note, Akira has like almost no reaction when Yukari is like, I'm going to leave the country. And I get it that they're the 2 most mature members. Akira really understands and supports Yukari, so if Yukari wants to go get her happiness, as the happiness people would say, she's allowed to. But I think that they could have also done a pretty good episode that focused on those 2 specifically. Yukari being like, sorry, Akira, I have to go. And Akira eventually being like, no, we'll still be friends, no matter how far apart we are, and that could inform the end of the episode where Yukari is fighting Elysio, and Elysio's like, "Oh, you're on your own, aren't you?" And he goes, "No, you don't get it." And every time he doesn't attack, the girls on the ground like knock it out of the way, and he's like, she doesn't say it, but the subtext is, "I'll always have them, even if I move away."
Yeah, it's weird to me that Akira and Yukari didn't have a moment, but I think that it's probably rooted in Akira always knew Yukari was gonna go after more things, because she's always looking for what is going to be entertaining, what's going to be amusing.
Yeah.
So I think Akira just wants Yukari to happiness get.
Yeah, exactly. That was my take as well, but I'm just saying that would have been an interesting way to take this episode. I think this episode almost had too much going on, trying to balance both the Christmas aspect and the Yukari's feelings episodes. And also she learns how to perfect the macaron, which was cute. Just give Yukari a 2-part episode. This is a great show. I wouldn't mind 50 episodes of it, as opposed to 49.
Absolutely, though that would have thrown off our 8-hour podcast.
That is true. That is true. And okay, that has been all of the thoughts on these episodes. Do we want to go to Tweets in a Bottle?
Sure. You don't have any thoughts on the Ichika episode?
The only thing I wrote down for my note is love is a fiction, which both I and James pointed out. Oh, look, Edgelord has entered the chat.
All right. I just need to stand up in defense of all edgelords here.
No. Okay, go ahead. Look, if you feel the chemical reaction known as love, explore that feeling. Just don't hurt yourself.
I'm not going to go on a behavioral scientist rant about how feelings aren't real.
They are.
Real in a certain manner of speaking. But anyway, all I'll say is Noir never experienced it before Lumiere, and the one time he thought he experienced it and he tried to grasp it in the only way he knew how, it was taken away from him.
Are you telling me that he used to wonder what love and Kira could be until you all shunned him? Send him to the dark realm!
Let's go to Tweets in a Bottle.
Wait, hang on. This is a legitimate question.
Okay.
That does not have an answer. I don't think the people who wrote the show thought about it. Did the darkness realm exist from Noir's evil heart? When he took the evil whisk and plunged it into himself and he became a heartless and a nobody, did he just create this alternate dimension of darkness, or did he just move into a realm that already existed that was left vacant by the destruction of Jaku King?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say that's what happened.
If you look carefully in the background, you can see Jaku King's body slowly decomposing because he's been dead for 15 years.
Oh man, it actually does kind of look visually like the Desert Realm.
It does.
Although
absolutely.
The Desert Realm gave off much bigger "We Are on the Moon" vibes.
Yeah, they're all similar, but they're not all quite the same.
So I do have one more Kira thought. You said that it seemed like they were going in a particular pattern for the last several episodes.
Oh, yes.
What do you expect out of the next couple episodes now that the pattern has ended?
Well, there's 3 more episodes. So, without using future knowledge, because there is an episode that shows up in there that's a little like, huh? That, like, I don't think anyone could guess, but I think that the next episode will be Ichika somehow rekindling her own Kira spirit. I don't know how she will do that. Maybe there'll be a piece of cake left in the garbage bin or something. That would be a weird place to find cake. My point is, she will become pink in this world of gray. And she'll be like, oh god, what do I do? But then she'll realize she has to reach out to her friends. And so maybe the last part of the episode will be her turning Aoi blue and Himurine yellow and Yukari purple.
So what you're saying is she's going to undiscord herself and then undiscord all her friends.
Yes, I forgot to mention that this is exactly like what happened in My Little Pony when Discord was taking all of their... Was he taking their elements of friendship away, essentially? Okay. But I think that it's going to be a 2-part episode that ends with a big climactic battle, and they're going to try to fight Noir, or I guess Elysio in this case, with just the 6 of them, and it's not going to be enough, and then the final battle episode is going to be the rest of the town giving their Kira, and they make an even bigger friendship laser, and then the last episode will just be showing Aoi as like a famous rocker in, 20 years time or something, 5 years time, and then they'll also meet whoever the next season is. Is Kira yell immediately after this? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's my guess, but I know that it's wrong already.
It's a pretty good guess, though, so I like it. I'm going to move on to Tweets in a Bottle.
Yep.
James really liked this week's episode. He thought that Manatsu's not having a clear career choice made sense for her and was relatable. And also, her parents didn't have a clear choice either, so it just runs in the family. And of course, Buff Kururun.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I was terrified of growing up when I was a kid, and I did not know what I wanted to do for college. I kind of knew that I was going to go to college. It was expected of me and that sort of thing. But I just kind of picked the college that my parents went to because why not? And I was an undecided major for a year, and then I switched to math because, I like math. But then as I started to think about, like, what careers actually exist with math other than professor, and I didn't really like that. And I happened to fall upon computer science, which happens to be pretty spiffy. I like it. But I think that lots of people go through that, where they're not quite sure what they want to be when they grow up, or, like Manatsu's parents, they want to be one thing and then another thing and then another thing and then another thing. So I love that they're actually showing that kind of indecision, and she doesn't just fix it in a 5-minute conversation with Laura.
I was much more on the Elda side of things than the Manatsu side. I literally had a moment, and this is like imprinted in my mind, where I was sitting on my living room floor at 16, and all of a sudden I had the brain blast that shortly I was going to graduate high school and have to go to college and then have to pick a career and have to be an adult. And I started crying. Like, I had a full-on sobbing panic attack in the middle of the floor because I realized I was going to be an adult. And, like, I feel for Elda wanting to be a kid forever, Not having to make any decisions or manage your life.
I absolutely get that. But as someone who has successfully made it to 30 years, my 3rd decade on this planet, if you are younger and you are feeling overwhelmed by the future, just remember to take it one day at a time and try and ask yourself, what is something practical that you can do? You're probably not, if you haven't written a single word, going to be a best-selling novelist tomorrow. That doesn't seem like a likely timescale. So kind of pace yourself, pursue the things that you enjoy and that sort of thing. The panic is understandable and reasonable, but don't let it overwhelm you.
Also, do the thing you actually want to do and not your second choice. I wanted to live in Alaska with wolves as a wolf biologist, and I gave up biology because math is hard and did psychology instead. And I love being a behavioral scientist, but I also would rather be in a cave with wolves than talking to another human.
Hello, Noir. Would you like a cupcake? Would this cupcake help bring you back?
I want the wolves.
James also had quite a few Kira a la musings. So he really liked the Yukari and Akira episodes. They were both beautifully done, but what really sold it was the Noir and Ichika and Lumiere episode, and the flashback shows, like, what caused it all. I love that. We don't understand where Gyaku King came from, as far as I know. We don't really know where the Biogerns or whatever they were called came from. But here we get a completely somewhat relatable, if a little extreme reaction that puts everything in motion. I like it.
Absolutely.
He doesn't like, James doesn't, the look of the telephone booth. He thinks it looks a little bit more like a refrigerator.
Do you know what I have to say to that?
What's that?
I have to say, none of us millennials know what a phone booth looks like. Maybe the British ones do, because they've seen Doctor Who or Witch or whatever.
What is Witch?
Dr. Witch, you know, Dr. Y, Dr. How, I don't know.
They only ever meet each other in the rare crossover events, and Dr. How shows up and they're like, get out of here, you don't count, you don't start with the letter Y, get out of here, or W.
The name of the crossover is Medical Questions.
Dr. Questions. James also echoed my thought that I was saying. So here's James's exact words. Okay, so Elysio definitely committed a felony offense kidnapping a child. Forget defeating him, throw his Yu-Gi-Oh card playing ass in jail. Now, here's what I would say. Jail. Hit him with a rainbow beam and disintegrate him.
Here's what I have to say.
Yeah.
Do we have any evidence that there are cops in this town? I don't think we do. I don't think we've seen a single one.
Listen. Okay, I understand that this is a stereotype and some people don't like the stereotypes, but hopefully it's expressed in a playful way. There are police officers in Ichigazaka, but they are constantly at the donut shop at the other end of town, and they never leave because the donuts are just that Kira delicious.
Oh man, it's not just the cops either. The firefighters are there too, and that's why that time Yukari's parents' house burned down, nobody was there to save them.
Oh man, Yukari as Batman. Did I draw her as Batwoman, or I drew her as Batwoman, right? Last year?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. That about wraps it up for Tweets in a Bottle. Predictions for the future. Episode 35. The title intrigues me. Fun Halloween, Don't Lose Manatsu.
Now, are you sure it's Don't Lose, Manatsu, or is it Don't Lose Manatsu? As in, she's dressed up in the same costume as many other people, and we can't find her.
Oh my god, that actually is brilliant. I would love for the generals, Chongi Rei and them, to show up in costumes that are so well elaborated that it's hard to find them and they're causing mischief at the party. But yes, I'm fairly certain. I love your joke. It's amazing. But I'm positive that it is a command to Manatsu. Don't lose. What is she? Do you think it's a bobbing for apples contest? She has to find the Kira apple or whatever. The Tropic of Shining apple.
Maybe it's like a don't lose your spirit. Like everybody likes Laura's costume better than hers. This will be the beginning of a rift in their friendship that will culminate in Laura going back to Grand Ocean.
Manatsu dresses in such a way that she shows just a little bit too much of her feet, and rumors start to circulate about the type of person that Manatsu is, and so she gets really despondent, and then they tell her that it's 2021, there's all types of women in the world, if you want to show feet, show feet, and she regains her confidence, and that has been your do final thought!
Have a spooky Tropica Halloween, everyone. What a shining episode of Cure of the What Now. Thanks for being our Nakama.
Thank you as always for your support. If you could, very kindly, be sure to like or share this with any of your friends. Let them know that we're always open to suggestions or thoughts about any particular episode.
And please take a moment to rate and review us on wherever you get our podcast from. Except for YouTube. You can't rate and review us on YouTube, but you can like and subscribe.
Absolutely. If you like what we're doing, even just a comment that says keep up the great work is always helpful for brightening our day.
Absolutely. Joel, where can our fine listeners find you if they want more of you?
Absolutely. The best way to get in touch with us is to go onto Twitter and find us at KOTWN_pod. That's where we're most active. But of course, we also have a Gmail. That's kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com.
You can also find me at Pirate Ghost Host.
She is much more prolific than I am, but not all of her content is necessarily about the podcast, whereas the other one tries to focus more on the show.
You like our sticker sheets? Joel's got sticker sheets for you. And that has been your Tropica outro.
Do-do-do-do. You'll be dancing with me today.